by a black man.
I think it's a starting point, and I think he's addressing the issue that it's a starting point. Because, you know, once you have it, what are you going to do with it? It has to be able to expand for the good. I think in some of his speech today, addressing that you know, United States will be tough. I think that was an answer to the usual testosterone-fueled war events that's been happening on this planet the last up to hundred of years, and that has to stop.
But it exemplified, you could say, in an unattributed quotation where he said it's a false alternative to balance liberty against security. I mean, I suppose a lot of people then do know that was Benjamin Franklin, a great founding father. But he just chose to say it in his own voice and his own terms, and there was a very distinct rebuke to the departing president in that. We're not gonna give up any of our constitutional freedoms for some war on terror, however justified. He himself, I think, does think it is.
The great question to me is that I think that so many people want to see great things from Barack Obama that I think they're actually going to forgive a lot of backsliding. They're going to forgive the fact that this is going to be, in many respects, a fairly conservative presidency. If you look at Iraq, you look at Afghanistan, a whole spectrum of issues, Obama is doing what, frankly, a lot of neoconservatives want him to do. And I think that he's going to be able to take ownership of these things and hopefully build a wider consensus, hopefully, you know, build more responsible policies.
Not do
but
what's
that's going to happen.
He's decided
Your brand new party that he does that.
Well, trust me, we have some tricks up our sleeves. So.
I can't wait. They're waiting for a long time now.
For the Republicans, it's 97. For the Tories, I mean, that it's the same power. I mean, Bush both destroyed conservative government. I mean, all the principles you thought conservatism stood for, whether it be balancing the budget or prudence in foreign policy, and so he had all the worst things about crazy leftism, in some ways utopianism, and stamped them with the label conservative. So he's made his own coalition utterly incoherent and angry. And Obama is so shrewd; he's just co-opting the conservative center. And in this country, it's a center-right country. He's adopting. He knows that just being who he is change enough.
So there wasn't much in that speech a conservative could really object to, was there?
I think that's right, but I also think that the New Labour analogy is a very good one. These guys are incredibly slick. They are very good at having built this tremendously persuasive artifice, and I think that actually Obama substantively is a kind of shrewder, smarter guy than Tony Blair was, but also who are the hangers-on? Who are the constituencies? What are going to be the measures that will be pursued that are going to fail, and yet people won't acknowledge their failure? There is a lot of ruin in any presidential administration, and this administration is going to make its missteps, and I think that we are obligated to be a constructive opposition, but you know, I think that I'm a little worried about how absolutely rapturous every single person I know is. I mean, all of these people who streamed into Washington, I don't want them to be gravely disappointed and then start, you know, blowing up stuff. They won't.
There is a chairing thing there, which goes also to the point about conservatism with a small c subliminally, and it's simply that family in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Family values are the thing that the conservatives more or less coded for themselves.
And look, this is a.
Chuck D, I just want to ask Chuck D
exemplary family
about this. To bring you back to the speech again, Chuck D. Is this a speech that will live on with you and with other Americans for a while?
No question. I mean, his speech is leading up to today's speech, or would rank amongst the top 10 in my book. So I could be a little biased when it comes to that. But I would tell you just Barack Obama as a symbol to the rest of the planet is told the rest of the world that the United States, instead of being arrogantly above it with his nose up in the air and with his fingers and his elbows hitting everybody in the head and shoulders, is now stepping in place with the rest of the planet, stepping up to some kind of accountability and responsibility. And I think that was a big plus. And I also think that on the inside, you know, redirecting the attitudes and the energies of millions of people within the United States, a over-bloated 300 million plus country, instead of leading people to go into the military-industrial complex or getting them caught up to going into the penitentiaries and the military-industrial, I would say the penal-industrial complex, you know.
Okay, I'm sorry, we've obviously lost the satellite. I think we'll draw the discussion to a close there. Thank you all very much indeed. A quick roundup now of some of today's other news stories. British banking shares continue to fall sharply today. Worst hit was the newly created Lloyds Banking Group, which lost 31% of its value. The Royal Bank of Scotland saw shares fall by 11% after it plunged a massive 67% yesterday, and Barclays shares ended the day 17% lower. There's been a sharp fall in the annual rate of inflation. The consumer prices index was down to 3.1% last month from 4.1% in November. The cut in VAT, lower petrol prices and heavy discounting by shops contributed to the drop. The UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has condemned what he described as an excessive use of force by Israel during its conflict in Gaza on a visit to the territory today. He was speaking outside a UN compound that was shelled by the Israelis. He also criticized rocket attacks on Israel by Hamas. Millions of European households that have been without gas have finally begun to receive supplies from Russia. For almost 2 weeks, the Russian